Alright guys, welcome back to Brian's farming videos. Today I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of emails, a lot of comments asking about the floodwaters to give an update. So it's Sunday, this is the 24th. This water came in on the 20th or 19th. It came in last Tuesday evening, late, maybe early Wednesday morning. So this water's been here 5 days, so we'll take the drone up and you guys can see what has went out and what has stayed so far. Hey guys, welcome back. Like I said, this is a flood update. We are doing some drone footage, so just like the last time, we're going to be doing some voiceover. If you're new to the channel, this is not how I normally film my vlogs. But for this flood, I figured this was the best way to do it. This field here is just 30 acres. This field was pretty much completely underwater the last time we seen it from the sky. Most of it's left. We got probably 5 acres there. It's going to drown out completely. Only time will tell on the rest of it if it lives or not. The water left in time, but it's going to depend on disease. What you're looking at in front of you, there's about 600 acres of bottoms right through there. Right in front of us, there's a 30-acre field that was completely underwater. We do have a high place in the middle of it now that I was kind of surprised to see. I don't see any of that 30 acres being okay, or 28 acres, however many it is. I'd say that'll all be replanted eventually, but there's still a lot of water in this field, so it's going to really take a little while for that to go out. And I mean, we can't get to that high place at the moment anyways. You can kind of see the water line here. Just a minute, we'll zoom right down in there. There's another little high spot right there, but yeah, this field had a lot of water on it. This is one of the places where the water comes in first. So here you can see just how high the water got right here. I'd say right here it was probably 6.5 feet deep, would be my guess. You can see the river bottoms, they kind of stair step right down into the river. So this bottom here, this was about 600 acres. This is the lowest portion of this farm. A lot of people have asked, does this happen very regularly, it flooding like this? It floods from time to time. This is the first time it's ever happened this time of the year. Last year, it got out in a very few spots, just the very low spots, and it was in and out. It didn't last very long. This is the worst flood we've ever had in a growing season. So, no, it's not very normal. This is abnormal for sure. But just flying across here, I thought maybe we'd fly down into here and see if we can see any crops growing. See, I wasn't real sure how long this had been dried off. I checked this field yesterday, and this spot was not here, so I don't think any of these beans are going to survive. Like I said, they spent 4.5 days underwater, so they're probably done for. And I was unable to find it, and you can still see it's very wet even on this high spot. Yeah, unable to find anything. Now, like I said, last video where we were doing this whole bottom was pretty much underwater. There was a little bit straight in front of us here that didn't go under, but not much. Now, that's a ditch right there. That's actually some dirt from when we cleaned that ditch out. There is a drainage ditch to help drain all this, but it just can't handle this much water. So, go over here. One of the big problems with this is going to be all the stalks that are going to be piled up. As you can see, right here's a stalk line. And that's just going to be too thick for those beans. Those beans didn't get a lot of water on them. They were probably the first ones to dry back out. But with all that residue on there, those beans are not going to grow. That will have to be burned or pushed. There's also, like you can see, a log right there, a large limb. There's a few trees out. So that's going to be the biggest struggle here. Is trying to get the fields ready to go back ready to be plantable again. Certain portions of them are going to take a lot of work, and usually it's just where the water line is when it starts to recede. That's where you're going to have all your stalks and all your driftwood and whatnot. I mean, you can see right here, there's just piles of stalks. So that's gonna take a little while. It's gonna be a lot of burning, I'd say, a lot of pushing. It'd be great if we could burn them and leave them right there, but we might just have to push them into a pile and leave them for later, just so we can get crops in as quick as we can. This right in front of us, a lot of this I think will survive. It dried out fairly quick. It never really was completely underwater that I seen. It had water spots in it, but I think it went out fairly soon. So this bean field right in front of us, this is 122 acres. I'd say of that 122 acres, we're probably going to have to replant, I would guess 40 acres just by looking at it so far. Maybe 50. Not ideal, but you can see these low spots. I mean, it's going to be a while for those to dry out, but I mean, they're definitely going to be replanted, I hope. I mean, we have till, with crop insurance for soybeans, we have till July 15th. So hopefully between now and July 15th, those wet spots dry out. You can see this line going diagonally right here. I'm not that sad. That could be from when the former farmer mowboard plowed that. That could be a hard pan. I'd be interested to see what he says about that. Now, this field on the other side of the driveway, this is a cornfield. This is a 165-acre cornfield. We do not have till July 15th to get that corn replanted. Corn's insurance date in our area is June 5th. How much this is going to be replanted, I don't know. I mean, where you see water at, that corn's done. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's been underwater for like too long. That corn's not going to grow. I don't know if we will plant beans in those water spots when they dry out, or if we will collect a preventive plant check. I don't know what the solution or what the answer is going to be on that one just yet. You can see the water line clear up here. So, I mean, the water did get on some of this too. So, yeah, we'll just have to see how long this takes to dry out. I would really like to get corn back in as much as this as we can. Just some of this isn't going to dry out in time. It's just there's going to be still water in a lot of this area, probably for another month. But you can really see how these fields, how they lie. A lot of people think that we farm on some flat river bottom ground, but there's enough roll in several places in this field where you can hide a combine. So, I mean, they look pretty flat, but it's pretty deceiving. I mean, and with this water laying here, you can clearly see where all the low spots are. In fact, when we were kids, we used to deer hunt. We would hide in those low spots and ambush some deer. But the water is going down though, so that is good. Like I say, most of this was all underwater. You can still see a lot of stalks there. Fun, fun, fun. Here you can see our road to get down into these fields. It's still, the water's probably pretty deep right there. It's probably 2 or 3 feet, I'd say. So we can't even get down there just yet. So it's gonna have to drain a little bit more. The field on the other side of these trees, that's the one that had the tile in it. It did drain most of that water out. I hope those beans will, for the most part, be okay. There's going to be some that have to be replanted, but not too bad. Here's our flock of geese. Out there doing goose things. Looks like there's some ducks in the background. Yeah, there's a tile line. You can see the ground's pretty dark there. It is saturated still, but it did get the majority of that water off of there. If it wasn't for that tile, there'd be ponding up there very similar to this, just not quite as big. We probably would have lost 15 acres of that field. So a couple people asked, when I say tile, what am I talking about? I'm talking about corrugated field tile. It's drainage tile. Now this field tile would not help these fields that are flooded down here, just because this is flood water. The river came up. The tile wouldn't have helped here, but that upper ground, we were using that field tile to drain out some wet spots. So I'm going to land here, and we're going to go on to the next farm. This is a farm just on the other side of some trees from the farm we were just at. This is 150 acres of corn you're looking at. Most of this got underwater. I'd say all but about 40 acres. I mean, the water was almost all the way up to the crossing. This was all underwater at one point. So, yeah, a lot of damage in this one. It did go out, some of this, but I was unable to find any corn plants thriving here. I mean, I was checking. I don't know when this left, this water. I don't think it left very long ago. I think like less than 24 hours ago. So this was still underwater for about 4 days. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of this grow back. I don't know. Like I said, time will tell. This stuff has water on it. It's done. It's not going to come back. Be highly surprised. Now, one thing about it, a lot of people have said, man, you're not going to dry out for months. This is all very gravelly ground. So it will dry out fairly good eventually. It's not going to take near as long as a lot of people think. And we might get something stuck, but we're not going to sink to China when we do. There's gravel underneath that topsoil, and it's not very far down. This field, there's a bean field. You can see the split right here. I actually was rained out of this bean field the day that this rain event started. And right here at the edge here in this corner, I had an Enlist soybean plot. Enlist soybeans, that's a new technology coming out in the last couple of years. Basically, we're able to spray 2,4-D herbicide on our soybeans without killing them. That was the only Enlist soybeans that we had. It was only like 5 acres, and it was in a plot, a research plot. And some of those are going to be okay, but that plot's compromised now, so it's not going to be any good data to really learn anything on, which is unfortunate. Here you can see just like where that water washes through there. Dad did make the comment. He was driving a side-by-side around that earlier today, and he did make the comment that we definitely had some soil washout where we were strip tilling. He said you could see right in the strips. So that's not good. I guess that's one downfall to strip tilling. If we were still completely no-till, if it would have washed anything out, it would have washed his plant furrow, which would only been about 1.5 inches deep, whereas the strip till, that was an 8-inch furrow. So some topsoil was lost or relocated. Not much, though. In fact, most of the flooded corn in the ground, you didn't see that. That was just where water was moving at a pretty high rate of speed. Now, this wet hole here, this is in the same field. This wet hole is 1.5 miles from the river, and it is the lowest point for 1.5 miles. So I'm not super surprised to see water here, to be honest. I'm surprised there's not more water here. When this floods, when the river floods, this will fill up pretty full. It didn't quite get as full as I expected it to. In fact, we planted most of this wet hole this year. Last year we had to plant tiller radishes in it because we never were able to get beans in it. We planted all but about 1 acre of this field this year. Now, this upper end here, I would say we probably lost 10 acres, and it's hard to tell when that will dry out just because, like I say, this is extremely low. In fact, it is 2 feet lower than the stream right here in front of us right here. Otherwise, we would tile it out to drain that spot. There's just nowhere to take that tile, and there's no easy way to get it to the river. There's not enough fall, so that's not, like I said, not super surprised that spot's wet. This farm, it was also all underwater. Surprise, surprise. Last time we seen it, it was looking pretty bad. I was pleasantly surprised when I got here today. The water had went out pretty quick. This is the first farm that gets water, and it was the first farm for the water to drain out, it appears, because I figured there'd be more here. One thing that was kind of alarming, you can see quite a bit of sand right there that the river brought in. I mean, there's obviously going to be no beans growing through that sand. They're under about 5-6 inches of sand. But that is actually how that mound right there got here. That was all sand that the river brought in that we just piled up, and it looks like the river made it go make it bigger this year. This farm is on the curve of a river, so I guess we get all the sand. Here you can see this wet slough, or this slough here. It just goes right down the whole length of this field. This will all be replanted, I hope, at some point. Last year, this actually drowned it out also. This, like I said, this is the first farm that water backs into. Last year when this was corn, this backed into this slough right here. It never got over the whole field. It only drowned it out maybe like 2 or 3 acres. But it did drown that corn out last year in that spot. So these beans, they should be starting to grow here pretty soon if they're going to live. That field was planted, I believe, the 18th. It's kind of an overview of the whole field. The soybean field in this farm definitely got the worst of the deal. The corn field, it just happens to be on a little bit higher elevation than this bean field. So some of the corn drowned it out, but the bean field definitely took the worst hit, which in this situation is the best case scenario because, like I said, we can replant beans a lot longer than we can corn. Now, one thing that surprised me was right here. We found corn growing in some of this ground that the water had left. So that was an uplifting thing. I was really happy to see that. Kind of gives us hope. Some places, you're still not going to see it. You can still see some right here, but then it starts to drop off, and then you can just see all the gravel that the river brought in. None of that's going to grow through that gravel, but I was still pretty happy to find corn all the way up to it, though. That made me feel pretty good. Certain places we're not going to find any. One up here, I check again, and we don't find any. So, and even then, that corn that we are seeing right now that looks okay, it is still highly susceptible to disease pressure. And according to my buddy Bushel Billy, If you're interested in agronomy talk, check out his YouTube channel, Bushel Billy. He said that even for the next 2 weeks, those corn plants that we're seeing are in pretty good danger of getting disease and then dying, and the stand actually thinning out over the next 2 weeks, which would be the worst case scenario, because if it looks good now and we make the decision to not replant, in 2 weeks that stand could be gone, is what he's saying, and that would be bad, because at that point it is past time to plant corn, and it would have to go to beans, if anything. So hopefully that does not happen. You can see the corn right through here, so hopefully all this survives. This had water on it. It didn't get super big right here. I mean, it left pretty quick on this area. But yeah, hopefully those crops survive. But here's a low spot. The river is actually right on the other side of those trees. But here's an overview of this whole farm. You can definitely tell the way the water lays. Here's the neighbor's place. A couple neighbors actually. One field over there by the highway, the long skinny one, it was pretty much completely underwater. It has some of the tallest corn in our area, and most of it, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make it. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. I know a lot of people are wanting updates on the flood. I was pretty surprised with what we saw. Some of this water has left, and some of this corn is growing, so that's good, gives us hope. But if you would, please do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content that you were seeing. And we'll see you in the next one. Actually, I think in the next video, you can see this field get planted.